Alrighty. What up, guys? Excuse me. What's up? What's up? All right. I'm just going to break this down relatively quickly. But the trade that I took was on Euro JPY, and I'll just give you just a little bit of context behind more so my take profit and all that kind of stuff. Entry was pretty straightforward, but we'll go over everything quickly to just give you a little bit of an idea of what I looked at and why I looked where I looked. Let's just put this down here so it's out of the way. Okay, so, and again, this is kind of, well, we want to see how you got your 20K. Yeah, I'll show you right now. Show you right now. What was I doing? 4 hour. Okay, so obviously, you know, we're not into the premium of the higher time frame lag or anything like that, but essentially all I really looked at with this specific setup, just give me 2 seconds, just to have a quick peek at. Okay, so yeah, all I really looked at was I saw this sort of demand or fake demand where we've kind of wicked through over here, just sitting at this low. And I saw a small interaction zone for a POY that I could obviously play a reaction from. Start to see a lot of the details on the lower time frame, but essentially, like I had seen this region sitting in here that got mitigated once, and then typically what we want to see is obviously a sweep of the first mitigation. You know, if we're utilizing that same liquidity concepts across all time frames, right? So obviously, like we're probably on a 15-minute time frame, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just go like this. What became relatively apparent for me was obviously like I was waiting to see order flow line. So I checked it out last night. Had a good idea that, you know, ultimately somewhere in here, I was going to be potentially looking for a trade. What I ended up seeing was we had the structural shift, right? So, or sorry, the structural sweep. Which happened across this high, which was perfect. Came from that flip zone that I was sort of talking about over to the left-hand side. This took liquidity. It was above a level that we could induce. Yeah, there's just confluences and confluences stacking around this. And in terms of the 15-minute, we're trading this alongside with the 15-minute trend, which is to essentially take out the potential weak low down in these regions. We didn't get like a closure above here. We're in higher time frame bearish order flow right now. There was just lots of confluences building around potentially taking a sell into the weak spot. So one thing that's worth noting is it's Monday, and at least the way that I trade, and at least with my habits, I tend to swing for the fences on Mondays. I get back from the weekend, I get super excited, I want to trade, want to make money, whatever it is. And oftentimes what ends up happening is I'll hold trades a little bit too long, and I'll end up getting taken out at break even because I'm not playing into the liquid region, right? So to make a long story short, all I looked at on the 15 was that we were coming up into this region. I wanted to see a realignment. So for me, the realignment happened firstly at this level. This is sort of that demand failure. We get the reaction, right? Reaction. I was looking to see some form of a sweep. And if I'm not mistaken, we had some form of like a refined POY that rested in this level. So let me just show you what it looks like, but you guys can kind of probably see this. Sorry, I'm using my laptop, so I'm a little bit limited as to what I can do. But I just looked at this demand zone and I looked for where the areas that are sweeps. Essentially, I saw this level right here. So on a lower time frame, I just wanted to investigate what was going on in this region here. Cool. So as we sort of push down, or sorry, as we built liquidity in this region, I wasn't necessarily looking for like a 5 second or anything like that. This is technically a pro trend move. Because we took out a structural level, I just viewed it as counter order flow. And just like I said, look for this to realign. Once it realigned coming into this region, I believe it's a 2-minute POI that I looked at, if I'm not mistaken. Super clean. Yeah. So no, it was a 1 minute actually. So I just looked at this entire wick that pushes through, takes liquidity, pushes down. Typically going to be very strong levels to sort of trade from. And I let this develop, looked at my first demand failure. What I ended up looking at in here was I needed to kind of not so much read between the lines, but just trying to understand where liquidity was stacked, what I needed to see in order to essentially be able to get involved with this. So I waited for liquidity to print across the lows, basically prove that this demand is softening. And as I saw that, what I looked for was a mitigation of something just above this region right here where that liquidity sort of rests in the market, right? So all I ended up doing was very simple. I looked at this entire region that sits above these equals to sort of get swept. Again, this might be a 2, might be a 3. I'm not really sure what it is, to be honest with you. Yeah, more of like a 3-minute POI. Beautiful push up, V-shaped recovery, liquidity to take, liquidity to target. So once we got into that region, and again, just above that liquid zone, I was just immediately jumping onto the 5 second looking for confirmations to get in because I suspected that I would have a half decent reaction to sort of play. So very simple. As we sweep this level, we came back down into sort of, excuse me, these regions right here. We see that very aggressive V-shaped recovery. The only thing that I could have maybe tightened up a little wee bit here was we had no liquidity to take into the extremity. I don't want to say it's a gamble. I mean, my narrative was pretty well bang on throughout the entire process. So the way that I sort of justified getting into this position is that we already saw this sweep over to the left-hand side, and then we took liquidity in and immediately shot back down, right? So I watched for the initial tap. I watched for that to get swept, and I just basically had a market order get executed just above this region, covering this high right here. And in terms of targets, again, just with my past experience, over the course of the last few Mondays, I tend to swing a lot harder than I need to. So right around this level right here, just go like this. I think I had, so it was 2.5 and I added right around there. Right, across, and I'll just go up to the 1 minute. You consider demand mitigation to supply entry. Just go over here and see what you're asking exactly. Demand mitigation. Demand mitigation. I'm not sure exactly where you're asking. Down in here, I'm looking at, again, I'm staying on the side of order flow right now, and I'm not really seeing any of that as demand. I'm more or less watching what's happening at these regions to be able to get myself into that pro trend, pro order flow state to start taking out weaker levels. So the bottom line with this, I played this super conservatively. I played this into this week low. I might have been a little bit tighter on my stop, to be honest with you. I can't really remember what I ended up executing at, but yeah, long story short, I just saw liquidity stacking in the market here. I saw the draw on liquidity right here. The next area that was going to prove to have a reaction would have been just below this low. If this was any other day of the week and yeah, I was trading this a little bit more aggressively, I probably would have partialed at the low and then secured profits a lot lower and just risk that to be able to potentially take this into a higher RR position. But ultimately, if I'm looking at this right now, I would say that reasonably the next larger sort of reaction may come from somewhere just below here. But I do think that this low is technically going to be weak as we are in bearish order flow on the higher time frame. We've just seen a structural sweep. Liquidity has been taken from above this high. The next spot that orders are going to end up sitting are going to be sitting below this low. So that was my trade idea. Essentially, that was the only thing I really looked at. I didn't really see anything else that I super liked this morning. So a little bit later on this afternoon, once I kind of check out a few more things, getting into tomorrow's kind of daily look ahead, there might be some other stuff shaping up, but this is the excuse me, the move that enticed me into the market the most. USD CAD. Again, these are trade recaps. I'm not really looking at USD CAD just based on the fact that I'm not really trading it, right? Just give me 2 seconds and I'll have a quick peek. 2 seconds, Nick, and we'll get you on the mic, man. Oh yeah, USD CAD was a beauty up into this region. We've been talking about this region for I don't even know how long now, a few days since last week, right? Coming up into here. I'm not going to build no given entry. No, that's the way it goes sometimes. Build a case study, right? I'm not going to build a case study around every single play that everybody asks, unfortunately. The purpose of these trade recaps is to show exactly what I take, why I took it, give you a little bit of the insight as to why I viewed the move the way that I did. And yeah, if you decide to build a case study around it, fantastic. If it's not something you wanted to trade, there's no big deal. But yeah, it was a trade that I really liked. I knew where orders were stacking up in the market, and they got taken on the one side, and I knew where they were going to be targeted and where that next reaction was going to come from. So I could have probably played this into a little bit more of like a 15-minute structural low. However, I just wanted to take money out of the market first day of the week, build confidence for the rest of the week, and ultimately look to take more positions. So go ahead, Nick, if you want to jump on, man.
Todd, can you go back to Euro?
Yeah.
If you look at like the daily and the 4 hour, everything's bullish. So
Yep.
How do you justify that? Because that's what I looked at. I looked at this and I said, okay, everything's bullish. So I'm not even going to look here for a trade.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just kind of followed like more of the intraday 15-minute stuff that I was looking for. I knew where liquidity was sort of stacking up in the market, right? So even on the 4 hour, I know exactly what you're saying. We've just taken this low, right? And now we're looking at, is this a change of character? I mean, what are we targeting, right? And that's kind of like the bottom line here. Like there's liquidity. If we go out to daily, let's just go like this. Oops, weekly. So for me, this is the start of potentially seeing a substantial move to the downside, right? Just on this.
Yeah, I don't see that. This isn't really, I see that liquidity taken, but I don't see this as hitting the top or any zone, even a weekly.
It's not hitting a weekly, but it's liquidated this, and we're coming into a pullback phase, probably down into something like this, right? Liquidity to take right here, coming down into here. So I'm playing into that same sort of narrative. I mean, it's just more intraday, right? So let me just go down and see if there's any other questions.
I think that's my mistake. I'm waiting for it to actually hit something there and not just looking at just the liquidity take. Yeah. That changes everything because, yeah.
You get what I'm saying though?
Yeah, 100%. Because now if you don't look at the, if you're looking to hit a zone on the weekly, then we're right now in an area where we probably could pull and go higher.
For sure. But
big, I mean, because of the big liquidity take, yeah, it doesn't actually matter. I'm actually being a bit stupid.
Well, you're just being conservative, right? And I'm sure you know I'm notorious for this. I usually get involved a little bit prematurely on trades on Mondays. It seems to be my nemesis for the last few months. But yeah, I mean, ultimately saw the same thing, right? I saw basically a structural sweep into an area that already took, right? Basically liquidated. I looked at this recovery, how quick it happened. We're trading into 15-minute order flow, right? And there was liquidity to target in here, right? Liquidity to target below these lows. And I mean, ultimately, I could probably hold this down into here with no issues, full volume. But again, because it's Monday, and technically this, I'm going to assume that this low is going to get taken. Cool.
Yeah, no, I totally just talking about it helps me to understand.
For sure. Ask away, man.
I like the way Euro JPY moves. When it moves, it moves.
I am really liking the JPY pairs the last couple of weeks, and I think it's just because of where they're setting up in terms of structure as well. And like EU and GU have already made their moves, right? They're in the process of continuing that higher time frame trend right now, and the next phase is going to be pullback phase, right? So I'm just trading into what's already happening in the market within these JPY pairs, and I found it a lot easier to just kind of see what it is that I'm looking for.
Thanks.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's it. That's all, guys. Super simple day. If you didn't catch this trade, I would suggest having a look at it. It's something, and like, I mean, ultimately, you know, knowing where to partial, first place to partial would have been below the week low right here, right? Fails to create. Second partial would be probably underneath now this week low right here, right? We're probably going to take out this liquidity point right here. So for the next profit taking, at least for me, would more than likely, if I would have held it, would have been just below here to be able to take liquidity on something, start pulling back, right? If it fails to create, then you can look for scales and then start taking out these levels, right? So as things develop, we'll start to understand where the weakness in the market is. Where do you think we will go on the H4 timeframe? I'm a bit lost here. Let's have a look. So H4. I mean, we're bullish. We're playing against the 4-hour structural leg is what we're doing, right? I mean, technically we're not in the premium, but the play was there, and it was more off of the intraday, like the 15-minute structure, understanding a little bit more like the liquidity concept side of it, structural sweep, creating inducement. Yeah, for me, it's really simple. I mean, ideally, like I'm going to want to see this get taken again, and ideally take a bunch of liquidity that's resting below these lows. Really, the area that I'm most interested in is going to be somewhere down here to potentially see an accumulation of orders, right? And then start to take potentially out these weak highs. So again, that's just my thoughts. I mean, yeah, anything can happen, right? But you need something to go after. There needs to be orders to go after, right? Like we've left behind equal highs, but we got to be able to take liquidity from somewhere, right? Like we need to be able to take liquidity probably from these guys right here, underneath here. You're not wrong. Like, I mean, there's something that we're reacting to, but look at how weak the break is, right? What are we after? This is weak. More than likely, this is going to get taken, right? Could be wrong. I'm just, again, you have to build a narrative around your idea. You need to justify it. It can't just come from like one time frame or one point of liquidity. It needs to be all these things combined, right? So what's more likely to happen right now? Is this low going to go, or is this high going to go? That's all. Like, and think about it in terms of buyers and sellers. And that's, yeah, keep things simple, right? Very simple. Cool. Everybody okay with this? I would suggest checking it out. Build a case study. Even if you don't build the case study today, I would say like even tomorrow, we'll see how this sort of pans out so that you can understand how it panned out, what happened, where did liquidity end up stacking? Did this end up becoming a strong low based on the fact that we had an order flow shift? Could also hedge exactly. Something I want to get into a little bit more. Yeah. Anyways, it's something, another modeling system I would love to bring in to basically put insurance on your moves, but all in due time, But yeah, that was my setup for today. That was my thought process. I mean, obviously it paid and it did really well. I targeted the next liquid region where I was suspecting a pullback from, and basically got out of the trade, right? Let it pull back. Probably could have looked for a scale this afternoon, but I just said the hell with it. That's good enough. I mean, 20K, we're chilling. Really don't need to trade for the rest of the week if I don't want to, but I'll wait for the next higher time frame setup to kind of show itself and just move from that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I will see you guys tomorrow, and we will basically go over whatever happens tomorrow, and I will get the daily look ahead out for you guys probably around 5:30 or 6 p.m. Eastern time. So have a good day, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.